So I went to the NCU seminar a couple weeks ago in Anaheim, and I wanted to make this video just kind of like summarizing what I learned there, what happened at the event, share some like my main takeaways now that I've reflected on all the lessons. Let's kind of talk about what that means for contractors. Now, you see, it was held for contractors who are in the home services industry, and there's contractors from all over. Of course, a lot of Southern California, but we had people come out from like Central Cali, some even North Cali, but people from other states even came out. But it was really cool to just see all the people up in there, and it was a lot of raza, so it was cool to be with our people, that whole vibe, and that's what we expected from Ishmael's event. And I think like what's most important is to be able to have a structure, have like kind of like the overview, because that was maybe 6 hours of them passing over knowledge. And of course, they're doing their part teaching, the audience is doing their part listening. I took a bunch of notes, and I'm using those notes to reflect and stuff. But I think what's important is, let me point out, while we're there, the things that we're hearing are inspiration. Sometimes it's direct advice, hey, do these specific things, and I will get into that. But sometimes just giving perspective, us hearing things, getting their perspective is the best impact. We're getting inspired and we're thinking about stuff they're not even saying to us specifically, but because we're getting inspired by the perspective that they're sharing, we start to answer questions that are not even being asked at the event. We start to come up with our own answers that's not being discussed at the event, but it's the way of thinking that makes the biggest impact, right? So I want to put that up front and talk about that's why this video is important, because when you see the overarching structure and you can kind of take like the overview of the business, then you have a structure where everything fits in. Any challenge that comes up in your business, right? Whether bottleneck, whether it be some type of plateau you're facing, right? Something's missing and you feel like you need more, whatever kind of challenges you're facing in your business, it fits in to the structure somewhere, so it's compartmentalized, right? And that's what the main focus points were for the event. It was marketing, sales, and operations. So Ishmael and his team of professionals that he had on stage with him seemed like they were a part of like a peer business owner group. They would probably share challenges with each other, probably share wins with each other, and they've been growing together. And so they all showed up on stage to talk about these three main focus points: marketing, sales, and operations. And pretty much their point is that you do these things in each and you're going to be successful. These are the main levers in the business that we're talking about. So you just got to categorize like every every challenge into one of these pieces, right? Okay, so they start off with marketing because that's where you get the attention from people who may be interested in what you do and getting your service, right? And once you get their attention, the sales part is having how you handle those interactions from the moment that they call in and the first person who picks up the phone to speak to them. That's already the sales process. And everything you do from there, like if you send a technician or somebody from the company to a person's home, right, to talk to the customer, to see what they're dealing with, see what they might be looking for help with, and that is all a part of the sales process as well. So everything, even technical, like the technician doing his technical piece, the way that all of it is done should fit into a sales process, okay? And then you also understand how it becomes operations. Once you get these big jobs, you gotta have the operations really organized to be able to take on the work and to get the work done very well so that the client is satisfied and you move forward with that type of reputation. So those are the main focus points, but something they agreed on, even though they all kind of had different opinions or different ideas, a little bit of different strategies that they used, what they all agreed on was that the most important responsibility for a business owner is the finances. Like that cannot be delegated. Yeah, like everything else could be delegated. Even tasks for like accounting, right, can be delegated. Certain tasks can be delegated, even like management, or even like a controller, somebody who has the permissions, the powers to actually move money around. for the company. A controller, it doesn't have to be the owner, right? So there could be people who are responsible for tasks that help with the finances, but like having a financial department doesn't mean that the business owner is not responsible, is not in charge of staying on top of the finances. The business owner always has to know. And they talked about financial modeling is what we're talking about here. The financial model is what the owner is responsible for, not just understanding, right, but like establishing, upholding, right, leading through the financial model is what a business owner is doing. Like, even if you have a CEO who's like the leader for everything on the business, usually all the other leaders look to the CEO, report to the CEO. The business owner still has to lead through financial modeling with the CEO. So that was what they all agreed on. And essentially it was kind of like knowing a few numbers really, but being able to get to a point where you have predictable revenue and you have your expected expenses, it's kind of predictable, right? Then you can start to like set up budgets and say, this is how much we're going to need to run the operations, this is how much money we're going to put to marketing, right? And you can set goals and say, hey, we're going to shoot for better. And you should always be trying to aim for some profit goal, and all the other factors in the equation can be like adjusted. You know, you learn from what you've done, right? So coming to the end of one year, you should have a bunch of lessons that you learn that you'll take into next year. And before you get into the next year, have a budget set up, right? That's your financial modeling part. Have your goals set up. And what's really cool is they talk about how to do that. That's why this video is super important, because if you can see that a business owner's responsibility is financial modeling and that part is done properly, then it becomes very clear that the marketing is the next most important piece. That needs to be dialed in so that we have predictable lead flow. What does that mean? We have some type of consistent influx of interested people, right? The sales department will make sure that that interest, the leads that are coming in, turns into money, turns into dollars. So essentially when the business owner does their responsibility properly, then they realize how important marketing is. When marketing is done properly, then the sales has their job to do, right? Now that we get the sales department rolling. And once that's working, we know we're always gonna have money coming in. So that's your consistent revenue, okay? And then you have to be on top of the numbers to see what it takes to run the operations. And you gotta get the pricing right? That was the whole point of it too. When a business owner has the financial modeling right, the marketing department, the sales department, the operations, it's all rolling now. It's rolling how it's supposed to be. And if we're keeping track of all the numbers, right, we're gonna learn a lot of stuff. The business owner is gonna see his responsibility in the profit, and he's gonna kind of like report back, right? By being able to have goals that everybody's on the same page with, everybody knows they're pushing for. So for example, if we say, hey, we're gonna hit 1 million this year as the goal, right? Let's say smaller companies trying to get to the $1 million a year mark in revenue, gross revenue. So we're gonna get this in revenue. We know that cost of goods sold, what it takes to get a job done, is about 50%. So we already know our gross profit is going to be about 50% of that, which is $500,000, 500,000. We're gonna put some money into marketing, and we're gonna have a little budget for that. You set that up right there, right? And then we're gonna have some goals, because if we do that marketing, then we know, we should get these many sales to get the million and stuff like that. So now we have a goal for the marketing to return a certain number of leads, goal for the sales to convert those leads into $1 million in revenue for the year. Okay, then we go into the operations money and figure out how much was it costing us for any other overhead, right? Besides what it took to get a job done, what is it costing us to run the operation despite how many jobs we have? That's a number that can creep up. Like, what is your monthly overhead? If that that's the last thing that should be raising. That was kind of like the main point there. But a business owner holds a lot of responsibility for the financial modeling. When they're on top of it, then they see all those pieces and they can kind of direct the team or direct the leaders in which direction to move, or to reaffirm that the leaders are doing the right thing, or to point to clues that the leaders have to do something different. So hopefully this is going to be helpful.